Welcome everyone. I believe we are good to go. Today we have roughly 28 participants. Most of these participants happen to be from the US. And we're going to spend roughly 20 minutes focusing more on what the course entails. And most of you are CFA Level 1 aspirants. So we are going to take a few of the queries towards the end of the session. So without wasting any further time, let's get into the aspects around what the course is structured about. So we're going to spend some time on what CFA in terms of value it creates, and then we are going to look at the exam structure and value, and then we'll spend some time on structuring a study plan, which is the key of this discussion today. And we are also going to explain you about the CFA Master Track program, which Krawl Edutech offers. We'll be spending a couple of minutes on that, and thereafter we'll get you accustomed to a few of the resources that we make available. And finally, we will be in a position to take up any queries. Now, the microphones of all of the participants have been muted for the time being, but the chat window is open, and anybody who is interested in picking and sending any query during the course of this discussion, you are most welcome. Please go ahead. So let's understand the value that CFA as a course, as a curriculum creates. We all know that CFA as a body does two critical tasks when it comes to developing professionals in the space of finance. It structures the syllabus and it provides a method to evaluate. So it's a self-study, self-paced study program. And most of you who are interested to pursue CFA, and almost all of you, that means whosoever is there on this call today, are looking to build a career in finance. And CFA, when it comes to as a designation, as a course, as a syllabus, it's a gold standard in the investment and finance industry. And we are going to compare this course with a lot of other courses out there in the industry and the way those courses are perceived. And it's not between CFA or any other course, but CFA has its own depth and its own position in the marketplace. Needless to mention and reiterate again that CFA for the last several decades, it has always stood the test of time in terms of the kind of curriculum that they have been able to structure and the kind of agility they have maintained in updating and structuring the course and keeping it aligned with the requirements of the industry. Now, when it comes to the areas of where all the CFA as a course is applicable, most of the industry, and especially those which require portfolio management, risk assessment, those kind of areas, the CFA as a course is quite successful. And anybody who is looking to take CFA as a program, you should be very happy to know that almost 170 countries globally recognize the CFA charter, and therefore as a program it is well accepted worldwide. And in terms of the programs where you can look for job opportunities, or also you can be self-employed if you undergo the program and pick up the skills that the curriculum wants you to undertake, whether it is investment banking or private equity, asset and portfolio management, equity research and hedge funds. In fact, all the gamut of corporate finance, including risk and compliance roles. This course is in a position to kind of introduce you, and also in most of these areas provide you an in-depth understanding of what the course entails and the challenges that the industry brings. Now we are going to look at a comparison of CFA versus other finance certifications. So we are going to spend some time understanding CFA versus MBA. We'll spend some time between CFA versus FRM, and eventually we are going to compare CFA with CPA. Now with CFA versus MBA, MBA is a very broad-based education, so you almost cover a lot of areas when it comes to business and a few areas also in depth, but CFA is a course which is very focused towards investment and finance. Whereas MBA is very broad-based. You understand a bit about all the areas when it comes to managing a business, but CFA has its own specialization when it comes to giving you a very broad-based understanding and focus on investment and finance. So if you are looking to take this course, it is good if you have interest largely in investment and generally in finance. But MBAs typically they end up rising up the ladder and with a focus to manage businesses subsequently as they grow in the industry. But it is a known fact that many MBAs who want to pursue course in finance subsequent to MBA or prior to MBA, or in fact in certain cases alongside their MBA, they also kind of try and pick up CFA as a program, because the depth that CFA syllabus brings and the insights it is able to provide for those students who are aspiring to undertake MBA is phenomenal. Next, we're going to compare CFA versus FRM, and here when you look at CFA versus FRM, FRM is largely an offshoot which is more focused towards risk, whereas CFA, it is more holistic towards investment and financial analysis. So there are many students who pursue CFA and they also subsequently pursue FRM. But FRM has a niche when it comes to risk management, whereas CFA is more focused towards investment, portfolio management, and corporate finance. And finally, let us compare CFA and CPA. Now, CPA is a thoroughly accounting-focused program, whereas CFA is completely investment focused, which by now all of you must have been able to figure it out. Now, when you look at CFA and you compare it with CPA is more geared towards compliance, where in CFA it's not geared towards compliance. Of course, compliance is part of the role that most of those students who subsequently earn their charter, they will be required to comply with the rules and regulations of the industry they work in. But CPAs are more geared towards taxation, accounting, bookkeeping, and they kind of progress and lean towards becoming CFOs and managing the accounting and financial role of businesses. Whereas CFA is purely investment and they are more accepted in the industry, which has to do with portfolio management or venture capital or private equity. But recently, CFAs have also been finding their acceptance in industries where you require somebody to undertake analysis generally. So we're talking about mergers and acquisitions, the investment banking roles. There we have situations where we need CFAs. And in our situation at the investment bank that I lead at Valchi Alliance Partners, we prefer for associates and analysts to have CFAs because the kind of insights and depth that they are able to bring is very mature. Next, we are going to look at the exam structure and the challenges that CFA Level 1 has. And we are looking at CFA Level 1 specifically for one reason. And I'm going to explain you that reason towards the end of this discussion today. You have 10 topics, which is part of the syllabus that the Institute provides. You have ethical and professional standards, quantitative methods, economics, financial reporting and analysis, corporate finance, equity investment, fixed income derivatives, alternative investments, and finally portfolio management and wealth planning. So these are the 10 topics that the Institute provides you, and there are specific learning outcomes for each of these 10 topics that the Institute has clearly laid out. Now for the Institute, these are the topics against which an aspiring candidate is tested. I will also like to highlight here that ethics is an area where the Institute focuses a lot, and there is no compromise when it comes to ethical and professional standards in terms of guidelines that the Institute has outlined. And most CFA charter holders, they are expected to have deeply integrated professional standards and practice in their working at the workplace and in all form of engagement with their clients when it comes to ethics. There is no compromise here. And one of the core reasons because of which the passing rate may have been low is this topic, which is ethical and professional standards. Quant is another area which is critical, but if you love numbers, this topic becomes quite easy. And the third is financial reporting and analysis, because these are all rule-based prescriptions, and here you have international financial reporting systems, you have GAAP, and these guidelines keep changing, and the requirement is most of the financial reports that come out of businesses, specifically listed businesses, for which you might be undertaking portfolio management or investment. Subsequently, FRA is a very dynamic area. It keeps changing, and it is an area which requires a lot of analysis, and you have to be very thorough with the kind of stipulations which are there when it comes to FRA. And alternative investments will be building upon. This is an area which has taken and the entire world by providing a structure outside of the equity markets, the listed equity markets, so as to say. So this is another very interesting area which is coming up very dynamically. Let's look into common challenges that candidates face when it comes to exam. Now, we are looking at very vast syllabus, and this vast syllabus has to be covered in very limited times. We're looking at a time management and huge amount of syllabus. So we have roughly 10 topics at CFA Level 1, and these 10 topics will roughly have in aggregate around 4,000 pages of condensed concepts which you are supposed to learn across. And against this, the institute has provided learning outcomes. Now, it becomes quite imperative that the kind of evaluation that institute has is very dynamic, because the syllabus itself is dynamic. The institute is agile. It keeps changing the syllabus and keeps it aligned with the requirements of the industry. Now, memorization versus application. This is another area which is kind of shift from what you have been the learning methodology that you had in the past. Just memorizing is not going to help you. Application is a requirement which you'll have to imbibe in yourself, because these are skills you'll be taking it to the industry, so you cannot escape this part. The third is, I was talking about the areas which are critical and because of which most students are unable to pass the hurdle. And the first is financial reporting, and the second is ethics. Then you have exam stamina and stress. The exam, for few students, it could be quite daunting. The structure, even though they have over the years simplified it, it's more at CFA Level 1, it's more of a multiple choice structure, but still it can have some kind of stress with 2 sessions involved, and number of questions are quite large. Mock exam and performance gap. Now, the kind of examination and evaluation paper that the institute sets every year keeps changing, and it becomes quite difficult for anybody to kind of structure that in a mock exam structure. So that could be a challenge. Next is the CFA Level 1 pass rate. The historical pass rate for CFA Level 1 ranges between 35% to 45%, and this kind of gets deep into the psyche of the students. But what is important here is to understand that CFA Level 1 pass rate is not something wherein you have very limited number of seats, or it's not an elimination process. If you are able to answer the questions correctly, you pass, and that's something. So if you learn properly and you're able to get the concepts, you will be tested against the learning outcomes, and the structure is quite transparent. So if you're able to do it, there is no reason why you should not be able to pass. And the historical passing rate at CFA Level 1 of 35% or 40%, it should not be something which should be pulling you down. So keep this in mind. This is not an elimination process. This is a process where if you are able to get the concepts clearly, you should be able to pass. Next, we are going to talk about 3 specific areas. I spoke about this in the previous slide: ethics, financial reporting, and portfolio management. 3 areas I have touched on this thrice, and you should try and understand that the reason I'm kind of stressing on these three areas is these are the areas which kind of pull you down. Ethics, it's more of theoretical concepts, but it is something which you have to integrate into yourself. FRA is a very dynamic space, and so is portfolio management. Let's now move to how to build a winning CFA study plan. So when you look at building a CFA study plan, you need to set a realistic study schedule. So most of you would be just fresh out of the college, or a lot of you might also have picked up a working schedule with as an analyst somewhere. A few of you might also have some kind of working experience of being in the industry for a couple of years. Now, the quantum of time available with you, or even if you have entire day available with you, it will be foolish to imagine you should be in a position to kind of commit your entire available time towards CFA, because it can be daunting, it can be overwhelming. So the idea is to start early, be aware of the time that you have, and have a plan ready as to in terms of what are the guideposts that I should build. You have to prioritize high weight topics. Now, there's a weightage which is there across the 10 topics. We were touching on those topics 3 slides back. Now, all those 10 topics has significant amount of variation when it comes to evaluation. They are not equally weighted. So we have to figure out, and those topics wherein there's a higher weightage, you'll have to cover it first. But irrespective, be prepared to cover all the concepts exhaustively. Next is you have to use active learning techniques. Now, what do we mean by active learning techniques? There are situations where you might have time gaps in between. Now, what I mean by time gaps or pockets of time during the day is applicable to those candidates who have picked up a job somewhere where they're engaged. But you'll have to kind of keep in mind that CFA, you have to prioritize if you want to get into the space, because every pocket of time which you have available throughout the day, you should try and utilize it towards studying for CFA. So you need to have the study material structured in such a way where you can use it, whether through your phone or through your computer, laptop, or maybe a handy printout, some form or the other, wherein you are constantly engaged. It cannot be like, fair enough, I'll figure out when we have time. Whenever you have time, just get back to looking at the CFA study material. The next is leverage dead time. So dead time is those areas where you want to recreate. Recreation is something which may not really be available to you, or you should not be focusing upon for the next 4 or 5 months until the time of your exam. Now, ideal study between June and November. If somebody is focusing to attempt the exam in the month of November, June is the ideal time to start your study. June to August, you should finish the entire conceptual learning and topic-wise practice. September to October, you should devote completely towards revision, formulas, and solving full-length mocks. November 1st to 10th is the period where you have to do quick revision, and you should have taken mock exams and try to figure out, are there any areas where you need some improvement? Are there any weak areas which require focus? Now, if you have invested enough time and finished the conceptual part of it during the period of June to August, there is no reason why you should be lacking or understanding what your weak areas are. And eventually you take the exam towards November 12 to 8, and so you need a fair amount of rest. But if you kind of practice this by starting from June and ensuring that all the concepts as per the learning outcome has been covered by the month of August, there is no reason why you should be failing if you have taken mock exams, at least 5 of them, and you have done your revisions. Now, we wanted to bring to you we'll spend a couple of times the CFA Level 1 CFA Master Track program that we offer. And we have structured it for one reason. Most of you, historically, you have been used to studying in a very structured environment. You go to a school, you kind of are taught by a teacher, and all of a sudden that program is disrupted by a new way wherein you are expected to learn through a self-paced program. That is what CFA is, or most of the professional exams are. But that is very difficult to imagine, because for several years, for almost 15, 16 years of your education, or 18 years of your education, you have been, unless you have been doing homeschooling, but it's very difficult to get out of that mold and commit yourself to a new plan. And that is where we realize this, because we interact a lot with candidates whom we might be recruiting, who are at level 2, or in few cases even at level 3. Now, what we understood is it's very important for the candidates to have a very structured and interactive plan, where they are taught the concepts, where they know they have a classroom to look forward to, a mentor to look forward to, and if they have any doubts, their doubts are cleared, and it's a very structured program, similar to what they have been used to in the previous journey of their education. Now, this is a differentiation which we are positioning the CFA Master Track. So we have condensed the institute expects you to commit 130 hours, of which we are taking 150 hours in which we try and finish all the concepts as per the learning outcome that the institute has prescribed. And it's an interactive session, it's live. You can come and you can ask any query which comes up. There are graded evaluations which happen, and there are mock tests which you are expected to undertake. So it kind of provides you a real school-like environment, and we ensure that we don't have an open batch size, so we limit it to between 50 to 100. We don't take more, because otherwise in a batch it becomes difficult to manage if there are multiple queries, and we have structured it to guarantee that you are able to exhaust all the concepts that the institute syllabus prescribes for CFA Level 1. It makes it very simple for you once the concepts are clear and they are imbibed and you understand the application part of it. The next is the mock exams and doubt clearing. We ensure beyond the concepts that you learn and you imbibe in terms of its application, you take mock exams and you have individual doubt clearing sessions where all the doubts raised by participating students are collected and all of them are addressed, so that everyone participating in the class, they are aware of what this exactly is about. And finally, we have exclusive revision classes, so revisiting the concepts so that you understand the application, doesn't skip your mind right before the exam. And in a classroom kind of environment, it boosts your confidence, because much of the revision which happens, you will be able to recall that yes, this is a concept which I know and I haven't missed on it. So it kind of eases your mind, and you are better aligned and prepared and focused for the exam. So where to go from here? We have a study planner which we have structured for CFA students. You can download that to begin with, and if you are keen, you can evaluate the master track program for November exam that we have. And for any updates, you can follow us so that you are aligned and you are aware of what's happening out there in the industry. We have the insights section on www.krawl.org. Please come to our website and follow us. Subscribe to the newsletter, and you can follow us on @Krawl Edutech on our YouTube, wherein we come up with new concepts and new videos explaining you various topics at CFA Level 1. Now, we're going to take queries, but we are very short of time. We had a 30 minutes webinar, and we see we are. So nevertheless, we have 2 queries which and both these queries are structured in around the same, that why is the passing percentage in the exam very low? And this is a query which we get across very consistently, and there are a couple of queries which speak about the study material which is provided by Kaplan or Swayzer. Well, there are multiple self-study packages which are available in the market, but at CFA Level 1, I always suggest students that if possible, if you take a structured live online program which is similar to what you are used to in your previous almost 15 to 18 years of education, it will kind of ensure that you are able to learn the concepts and you perform better. Now, the query on why the passing percentage has been low is very simple. I have explained it multiple times. The reason is there's a deviation now. You are expected to learn through a self-paced program, so you end up kind of putting this CFA preparation on low priority because you believe that the time that you have, you can plan it because there is abundance of time. And most students, you say for instance for November exam, they start preparing in the month of August. So this 2 months can make a huge difference. If you're starting in the month of August or if you're starting the month of September, 3 months are just not adequate. It's not about 300 hours of committed study time. What is important is you should be able to spread this 300 hours so that there is no stress on you. We have a couple of other queries to which we are going to respond through email. And anyways, if any one of you has additional queries, I'm listing out the email ID. Please send us an email at info@krawl.org and we'll be happy to respond to you. So we'd like to close it here. Thank you for your time today, and we look forward to helping you in your endeavor in pursuing CFA. Thank you, everyone.